Happy Thursday! Hopefully I can get through this without being too much of a hot mess. It's been very interesting last 2 days around here. So there she is, my girl. We're chatting again today. Fierce Warrior Yoga. Marissa coming to you from Canada. I'm in Alabama. We're chatting about all the things. Oh, it's Step today. We'll get this. Learning how to do all kinds of stuff. Hey! All right. It added some extra steps in there this time. I was like, what did I do? But I think we got it right. So how are you today?
I'm well. Honestly, it's a dark day here. It's raining. It's cold. All sorts of things. But you know what? I'm doing the best I can and managing every single day, every single hour. How about you?
Same. I actually opened up this chat saying, hopefully I can get through this without being too much of a hot mess, because my energy over the last day and into today has been a little crazy. It was so funny because Marissa and I have chatted elsewhere too, but I don't know about you guys, but like, obviously with so much going on, I know like even in different countries, but when there's like this big, everybody is all focused on like one big energy or whatever, it's like when there's kind of a resolve around some stuff, there's usually, I don't know, this collective, like either way, you're kind of just, you've been riding on this like emotional energy high, almost like even if it's subconscious, and then it kind of, I don't know, you're just like wiped out a little bit. And then along with all the other things that we all cycle through every month, it's like, I don't know, you just have to kind of ride that wave. And for me, for us as women, but for my own personal journey, it sounds like you've kind of gone through the same thing before, with realizing that really positive and happy and high energy days and all of that, it's pretty normal. And it's also really normal to have days when you're going to be more like behind the scenes and not really wanting to deal with people in person, and maybe not even be as productive with like checking off. I do that a lot. Don't know when I'm talking. Maybe not be as productive, like checking off your to-do list and all that kind of stuff. I feel like the once that realization kind of came to me, that mindfulness, I was able to just accept things better, and which in turn made me more productive, because I've heard you say before, like I used to force my way through the days when like my energy was low and whatever else, and be like, well, this is what I do, this is what I've got to get done, this is what I expect of myself. And then when you can't do it, it's almost like you took 2 steps back, when if you just would have like stood still and then jump back in the next day or the next couple of days when your energy returned or whatever, or you were in a different headspace, then you'd be further along. So isn't that so interesting that we're like kind of in that same space this week? But I know we're not alone. I know it's like, I'm sure there's some other collective energy shifting out there this week. So it's funny because maybe it's just because like we're there, and like, wherever you are, you kind of tend to notice things about that, about that situation in other people. And so I know when I'm like, man, today was just really weird or whatever, I see other people kind of like posting about it or telling me about it in person or whatever. And I'm like, I think it's a thing. It's, there's something bigger with our energy and all of that goes on that you don't always see. And it's just cool to start tuning into that a little bit more. So, hi. Try not to be a hot mess. It's my mantra some days.
Hot mess is good. We have to embrace ourselves as we are, how we're feeling, how we're going about our day. Like, there is nothing wrong with, because there's always this big connotation around the hot mess piece, right? Like, hot mess is like this negative connotation. But honestly, that's you going through life. That's you going through and experiencing what's happening in the moment. So if we shift that and embrace the hot mess, then we're actually being present, if you really look at it that way, versus trying to pretend that everything's okay. I mean, we have social media for that already. We don't need any more pretending. Let's be real.
Yeah. And, it reminds me of the mantra that I've mentioned on our, on these chats before. And then I also teach, through my program, it's the whole better, not perfect. It's like, on those days when you can really, whether it's make better food choices or kind of be more positive with your thoughts or drink more water, go for that walk, whatever it is. And then there's going to be days when it's just really hard, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, well, I've done better overall than I used to. I need to be proud of that instead of trying to be perfect or portray perfection or whatever, because that's just really not real. So even our own like daily in and out energies and emotions, like it all flows. So you've got to be, you know, in the moment, like you said, it is reflect, and it being like claiming or standing in your hot messness doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that it's an excuse, you know, for like not being productive or on other days, or not being more polished or put together on other days where you feel like it. But it's like accepting and being okay with, you know, some days just getting by is all I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to do, and, you know, keep my family fed and, you know, schooled and all that stuff, and that's enough. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay for sometimes that's just enough, and not to put so much pressure on yourself to do all the things every day. And that's why on the days where you do feel good and feel like accomplishing more, go for it then, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of leads us into what we were going to chat real quick today about is kind of how nutrition and, you know, the whole self-care, self-intuition, mindfulness pieces all kind of like go together. It's really interesting as somebody like who helps, you know, people just become healthier and maybe lose weight and get more fit and all that. You know, everybody wants me to like give them a meal plan or tell them what to
Mm-hmm.
eat, or, you know, are you eating low carb? Are you know, intermittent fasting? And they want like one specific answer. And I'm sorry that this is my answer, but there is no one right way, and everybody is different. And that sucks because everybody wants to know, like, what's the one diet I need to do? You know, what's that food that I may not be eating that's the secret food to weight loss or whatever. It's just, that's just, it doesn't exist. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, even I, for a while, I was like, you know, well, I've seen so many other people have success with, you know, X, Y, or Z, you know, I'll try it. And it turns out the secret that I found is that you have to phase.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still going to look different for everybody. So there's still no one right way to do that. But what's really cool about that is that you don't get locked into like one certain way of doing things forever. So
Mm-hmm.
because you're always aging, you're always going through different life phases. You know, your body is always changing. So it makes total sense. Just like with your workouts, you can't do the exact same workout every single day and expect to keep making progress. Eventually, you're going to hit a plateau, and you've got to cross train. So you've got to cross train with your nutrition too, and that goes for what you eat and your, you know, your vitamins, your supplementation,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of bridging the gaps all the way around for keeping that variability for your, you know, your gut microbiome wants to be very diverse. You know, thinking about
Mm-hmm.
it, it's like a big crowd of people, you know, in your gut, and you want a very, very diverse crowd of people for it to be, you know, the most healthy. And that's what's going to affect your sleep and your energy and your weight loss and, you know, all of that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about that mindfulness when you're eating, learning how to tune into your body and what you need, you know, at that moment or in a few days, for a few weeks, maybe for a few months at a time, and then learning how to tune in to the point where you're like, you know, I've been doing kind of the same thing for a while. I feel like it's time to change it up. Like, it doesn't mean that you can't stick with something. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
the diet culture has kind of ruined us on, you know, if you can't eat perfectly, you know, most of the time, you're not going to make progress. Or if you can't eat this way for the rest of your life, you're going to gain all that weight back or whatever. Like, if you are dieting and being really restrictive or really extreme or cutting out like a whole food group, yeah, if you start eating that food group again, you're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to start gaining weight. But that's the reason why you can train your body in and out of these phases of you know, changing around your food groups and you know, how much you're getting, you know, the macros, the three big macros, right?
Mm-hmm.
Proteins, carbs, and healthy fats. And so there's a lot of, you know, publicity right now about eating low to no carbs and very high
Mm-hmm.
fat and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, moderate protein. We all need protein. Like, we have to
Mm-hmm.
have those building blocks, but it's in so much more than just meat. And I'm not saying give up meat. I'm just saying you're getting more than you
Mm-hmm.
think, but you're also can only absorb so much at once. So, you know, drinking one of those protein drinks from the grocery store that says like, you know, 25, 30 grams, but yet it's got all these additives and ingredients, like chemical ingredients in there and fillers and whatever else, you're probably not even absorbing that protein because it's your body's like fighting all the stuff that doesn't belong in there. So you got to clean it up a little bit too. But anyway, I'm not trying to get too much detail about all the nutrition stuff. Cause you know, that may not be what you want to dive into completely, but at the same time, you know, I love the mindfulness piece around nutrition, because it is all about fueling our body and supporting, like, if you think about it, all those little bitty cells on the cellular level have to have certain nutrients to be able to function, right? Like, you want a healthy cell, and there's a, you know, bunch of healthy cells, or a bunch of cells in there, and having them mostly all be healthy is going to make you feel healthier. And of course they die off and more, you know, are created and all that stuff. It's just like a constant balancing act. So if you're able to be overall, you know, more healthy on the cellular level, you're going to feel different. And that really is contributing by what you put in your body. So I don't know if you know, I mean, there's even some healthy foods that are out there that your body may be like, oh, I don't like it, you know. So you can't have somebody else tell you how to eat all the time. And even with, you know, vitamins and stuff, you may be taking some stuff that has fillers in it. Like if you just buy stuff at the store, most of the bottled stuff all has like some sort of oils in there that don't need to be in there, or, you know, fillers. I know that there's like some popular companies that have capsules that, like, I've Googled so many ingredients for supplements that people ask me about, and I'm like, we got to find out what's in it, right? Whether or not it's like a good or bad thing, right? Just like with the food, I'm like, you Google the ingredients. Do you know what whatever means? And if they don't, we look it up, and like before it said like wood pulp, you know, and this is like a healthy capsule. You know, I'm not putting any companies on blast or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's out there, and it's very like wool over the eyes kind of marketing around a lot of that stuff, that you're really actually going to end up doing damage to not only your gut microbiome, but your kidneys and your liver and, you know, all that stuff. So I personally only want to take stuff that's very, very clean, and it's plants, you know, so it's not eating just, you know, produce, but it's a plant. It's, you know, it's very, very natural. So anyway, aside from that, as far as nutrition goes, like for you, where do you feel like you are with your mindfulness practice and all of that when it comes to food and drinks?
So over time, I have learned that we have all the answers within us, right? So if we actually take the time to listen to what our bodies needs, it's constantly sending us a message, whether we choose to observe it and do something about it, or say not right now and add it down the priority list. And so in being very aware of how my body functions and what it needs and the support that it needs to thrive, as soon as I put something in my body that I know, by choice, that I know that is probably not the best decision, but there is no guilt attached to that, I know that there is going to be something I'm going to have to manage afterwards in the background. So it's making those choices and looking at the small building blocks and then adding or removing what is causing the harm. So for example, for me, I love dairy. I grew up with dairy. I'm a European background. It's hard for me to stay away from cheese. And so anytime I consume it, I know that my body doesn't love it. It doesn't process it well. And I'm going to be managing afterwards because of the choice that I made. So I'm aware, even before I eat the cheese, what's going to happen, but I still make that choice to consume it. Now, I do have other, for example, other types of cheese I can consume that are non-dairy, right? Or not as harmful for my body. So it's empowering yourself, it's informing yourself, and then deciding, you know what, I'm going to consume it. There is no guilt. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to be present in the moment, and I'll manage afterwards. Or it's making the other choice that I don't need that right now. I've got something else that can fuel my body and actually give me the energy that I need to go about my day. So I find for me, it's a constant balance and it's a constant assessment. You know, for example, the past couple of weeks, I decided that I was going to detoxify from coffee. And I have tried that over and over and over again with different supplements and different drinks that will come in and replace, like matcha or what have you. And every time I have gone back to that desperate feeling, that feeling that I missed it and I was being deprived and I needed it. This time it's very different because I found something that actually tastes better. It's easy for me to prepare in the morning and I feel pretty amazing and pretty incredible. And I know I don't know, I don't need to be re-summarizing that to you, Jess, but I am so blown away by something so simple like replacing that cup of coffee on how I've contained and kept that energy at base level and consistent, and I feel good and I'm operating so much better just in 2 weeks. And all I did was replace with that cup of coffee with a cinnamon latte that tastes better.
Yeah, and it's crazy how you don't realize how not good you feel until you start feeling better. And you're like, well, I was taking, drinking this in the morning and this in the afternoon to like make sure I didn't, have that slump in energy or whatever. And there are multiple things that like you can intake that's, a variety of vitamins and minerals and all that, but you don't want to use certain things like as a crutch, right? So like if it was something that you replaced coffee with that was more of a crutch, like once that kind of stopped being effective for you, you're going to want to go back to that coffee, and we're not saying coffee's bad. We're saying like, just like with anything, you don't want to consume the same. I need to do that for myself because I have snuck back in, or I had with too much coffee. Well, just more mindfulness around, well, hey, I've got this other, blend that I have that is, very clean and lower in caffeine. And it's a very natural blend that really helps with like focus and energy and even like just digestive health and like blood sugar management. Like if I'm consistent with it, like my sugar cravings have finally just like, really subsided. I mean, you have, the holidays just all the time. It seems like through the whole winter and into Easter, we still had like Easter candy around and then Girl Scout cookies around and all those things. And it's not like I would go crazy and binge on everything, but when I was having like, multiple servings days in a row, I feel like that's just too much, because it left me feeling bloated and, because it was basically inflammation from too much sugar, and then almost having like those crashes because of the sugar. And I'm like, why was I not being a little more consistent? So anyway, over the last 2 weeks for me, being more consistent with it, I haven't completely avoided coffee, but way less consumption. And I'm not having those energy crashes like throughout the day. And with food in general, like a lot of times, there's a reason why most people feel like they need an afternoon nap, after they have a big, usually, maybe not even carby, but like sort of sugary, sort of carby, kind of heavy lunch. And then your body is just like, you can't even like jump up and do anything, I need to rest, which we've been kind of conditioned is like, that's kind of a normal thing. Now you do need to take your time and digest and all of that stuff. But I remember when I was trying to clean up my food for the first time, I read somewhere that like, if you can't jump up and go like run for your life or something, like within 30 minutes after you've eaten a meal, then you've eaten unhealthy for your body, that after you give yourself about 30 minutes to digest, if you can't like jump up and feel and have the energy and have the strength to act that way, then maybe what you consumed isn't settling right with you. So obviously it's way more scientific than that. That was just like kind of an interesting example, because I was like, man, most of the time after I eat, I feel like not moving, and one of the best things you can do for your digestion is taking a walk. And so which is way harder in the colder months. Obviously, nobody wants to be walking outside after the sun has gone down after dinner. But if you live somewhere that's warmer and it's starting to warm up for you, like maybe that's something, if you struggle with digestion, start taking like a family walk after a meal or whatever. But tuning into like how you're digesting and how your energy level is, will go a long way to helping you kind of, if you're having like issues with weight loss plateau or, just feeling ick, it really does go a long way. So I'm so glad that that blend has been helping you. And there's just something so powerful behind being able to be completely satisfied with something that's healthier and not even really missing the older version of whatever. Not, like I said, not saying that coffee is healthy. It's just being able to not use something as, well, I just have to have this. Because a lot of people feel that way maybe about like their nightly ice cream or their after lunch, you know, treat or whatever. Again, not saying those are bad, but when you're doing it all of the time, it becomes like this new normal habit that's going to, you know, compound the sugar for you. It's going to, you know, it's just not as healthy. And even if it was healthy, it's still doing the same thing every day. You know, it's eventually going to lead to, you know, less diversity inside your body and stuff. So, you know, plants are really powerful. And so the more you can kind of figure out like about the micronutrients, which there's so much focus today about macronutrients, like we said, the proteins, the fats, and the carbs, and sugars, kind of another macro, but we won't go there. And then, but micronutrients. So like you're talking like your vitamins, you know, your minerals that so many people think, well, I'm going to have to supplement that, you know, and you do to a certain extent. It's really hard to get a lot of the most important ones from just your food. Like even if you eat, I mean, I'm talking like organic and, you know, just super clean and healthy, you may not be absorbing that nutrition if your gut health is, you know, kind of lacking. A lot of us are walking around with leaky gut and don't even know it. So your body is not even absorbing that nutrition you're taking in. So just because you're eating super healthy doesn't mean that you're actually getting what you need. Second of all, same token, you may be eating organic and super healthy, but the food that you're eating, you really don't know the nutritional profile of it by the time it gets to you, by the time it gets to your plate and into your mouth. Because as soon as food is picked, the nutritional content starts dwindling. Every time we cook our food, which some food you do need to cook a little bit to like make it better to digest and all of that. But I'm not saying you have to eat completely raw. I'm just saying, you know, that's just another hit that the nutritional profile takes, you know, after it's been picked and stuff. So you think about that and you're like, oh, well, I should have been getting, I should have tons of, you know, vitamin A or vitamin C or whatever because I eat lemons every day or whatever. It's just, that's just not the way it works, you know? So I don't want to sound discouraging that like you have to sort of supplement, but I think it's important to realize that there's more to it than just the food you eat. So if you're feeling like you're eating pretty healthy and you're still struggling to lose weight, you're still, you know, your energy is just not where it should be or whatever, you're probably not absorbing, you know, what you need to. And there's a lot that goes on with our guts that obviously we just can't see. And maybe because you obviously have to eliminate, you know, your body every day. You know, I know some people don't go every day, which that's an issue. You should be regular is at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. Because then you have a lot of toxins trapped in your body, which it actually adds on to your weight, but it's also like, you know, if you have kind of a distended stomach all the time, it's hard for you to like, you can't like suck your stomach in, or it's, you know, hard or uncomfortable or whatever. You don't have to live with that. That's not normal. Or if you're not even sure if you're fully eliminating or not, but you're having other issues, like maybe it is kind of starting with your digestion. It turns out there's a lot of people that I've worked with who that was like their biggest issue was not going frequently enough. And they're like, well, I feel like I eat pretty healthy and whatnot, but they needed a little something extra to kind of get their guts, you know, going the way it should. And then they were able to, they felt different eating some of those healthier foods that they may have had before or whatever, because they felt like they were absorbing it, and then they were able to, you know, eliminate regularly and all that. It really makes such a big difference. So I never thought that I would talk about poop so much as an adult that I do. But I do. I mean, I know parents are like, yeah, like poop talk's not a big deal, but there really is no TMI for me anymore. Because I tell my clients they've got to be very, very honest with me. And I ask a lot of questions and I expect them to tell me a lot. So it's, I mean, you know, they've sent me pictures. I'm just saying, it's like, it's fun. So it's all data, and it's all to get where you want to be. You've got to be willing to like be honest and kind of talk about all sorts of bodily functions, but that's everything, you know, like to your gut health is really in control of like the rest of your bodily functions, your immune system, like I said, your energy. If you're having skin issues, like so much of that can be from your gut health. And when we talk about mindfulness, not just with food, but with, you know, it all comes back to your, obviously mindfulness is about your mindset, right? So like eliminating that stress, like, so when you're planning on eating healthier, I'll start with this first. It shouldn't be stressful. If you're really stressed out about like eating a particular way, or, you know, stressed about going to a party because you're like, I don't know if there's going to be any food there I can eat, or don't even want to go on vacation because you're like, I have no control over the food. That's not healthy. Okay. That's stress. What we both want to encourage people is to be like that mindfulness, to be there, but also to be adaptive and to realize that, you know, there's going to be, just like with your energy or your mood or whatever, there's going to be that ebb and flow of, I'm, you know, I have control over my food because I'm kind of at home and have access to stuff. And then there's going to be times when other people want to cook for you, or you're going to go out of town, or you're going to go to a restaurant or whatever. And you have to be able to just, you know, adapt and make that work, because that's living. You don't want to stop living just to eat perfectly. So with that, really channeling your, with that mindfulness, channeling where you are with your stress level. You know, if you're stressed about the food, you need a different approach. If you're stressed in life in general, really using the tools to combat that stress will help you absorb those minerals and vitamins better. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but it's directly related to your gut microbiome. If you're stressed out, you're not going to absorb the nutrition from your food or your vitamins the way you need to. Is that not crazy? Like, it's actually, it's all related. So like reducing your stress, period, even if you aren't changing your food yet, like we've been talking, the whole reason we start with mindset is because getting to a place where, you know, you're not lowering your expectations of yourself, but you're auditing your expectations of yourself, your energy, and how, like, what you give your energy to, and how you're spending your days and your time and all of that stuff. You've got to start with your mindset. And then once you're in a good place and you feel like you can attack, you know, certain behavior changes each day that aren't going to stress you more. Because that's the last thing that I want my program to do for people, is stress them out. So I'm like, you know, if you can't get through the lessons and you feel like in the time frame you feel like you should have gotten through them, like, don't panic, don't stress, because that stress is not welcome. You know, it's not part of this program, and you're going to get to it on your own time. And there's a lot of situations I feel like, you know, in our own lives that we've talked about, that, you know, the timing is what it is. And there's a lot of things that I think we feel like we're supposed to force, and we're supposed to make stuff happen, and, you know, all of this. But at the same time, it's like, well, you can't be the determiner of everything in the timeline. So you've got to give yourself a little bit of grace with that, and, you know, really think about your overall stress level, and just, you know, try to keep it low. And, cause certain toxic food stresses our system as well. So that stress is just, you know, it's all around, mindset and, you know, physically, internally. If you're introducing foods that cause your body stress, like I said, you're not going to absorb the nutrients, and you're going to not feel your best. And it really is all about feeling your best. If you can focus on those little daily habits that are going to, you know, create healthier cells inside your body, and you're really focusing on keeping that stress level down and all of that, then your body can start to release some of that built up, you know, energy, negative energy and toxins and all that stuff. And you'll start actually, you know, shedding some of that stuff you don't need. And I know it's kind of like parallels what you mentally do, you know, yoga and stuff. You're letting go of the stuff that you don't need anymore, and building the new, like creating the new. It's the same thing with getting into that mindset of like, I'm not going on a diet. There is no perfect time to start being healthier than right now. So you start with that whole like letting go process, and then the learning process can start, and the building and the creating. So I don't know, it's really exciting to me to just see all those little parallels between, you know, what all we do. And it just breaks my heart when people are so, I don't know, almost imprisoned.
Yeah, restrictive.
Yes. And that the whole diet culture, I just want to punch it in the face. It makes me so angry. And I'm not immune to like, you know, seeing some of that stuff sometimes and being like, huh, I wonder if, you know, if I've been doing that wrong. And I'm like, stop it. No, like, no, you don't need to be doing that. Like, I've done plenty. I mean, I'm still learning all the time, but like, because of my experience, you know, personally and with clients and all the research and the studying and the schooling that like I've done around this, there's such a strong foundation. And I know everybody, it's not your career necessarily, so you're not going to have as much of that foundation of it, but that's one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about sharing, about putting my program out there, because it really is pretty basic. I mean, really. And when you get back to that, the basic and the fundamentals, then you can build on that, and it's going to be a healthier foundation. So you're going to be able to, I don't know, to launch it into everything you do for the rest of your life. So I don't know. As far as, I'm really glad that you've started to see changes, like, you know, in your energy and being able to loosen the reins on something as ritualistic as coffee is so hard for so many people.
I'm a coffee lover, so that is, and it's not to say I will never go back.
Right.
Like I made the adjustment with the thought process, which is something I wanted to address too, is anything we consume, any type of food, any type of drink, there's emotions attached to that, right? So we have to it's being aware, what does that bring to you, to your life, to your body, to your mind? Because your brain is your second gut, right? So thinking about that holistically and then determining, okay, is this something I can try? So I stepped into the challenge for the whatever thousandth time with the mindset that I was going to try, because I was feeling that high and low of energy. I was feeling those really bad dips. And so I'm like, okay, what can I do here to support myself and support my body? And so spending the time that I did looking at it, coffee was the first thing that was right in front of me. And I'm like, but I love coffee. I'm such a coffee fanatic. And so I went in with the mindset of, okay, let's try and see if we can maybe decrease the consumption, not totally eliminate it, but decrease the consumption. So I said to myself, okay, so maybe on the weekend I will have those cups of coffee. But then as I've progressed, I'm into week 3. As I've progressed, I don't miss it because I've created a habit and a ritual every morning where I make my latte. And so to me, that's building the new. So, but I went into it not all or nothing, and not with the guilt that I couldn't let go of it, I did something wrong. It was like, let's experiment. Let's be curious. Let's have a beginner's mindset and let's see where this leads me. And this is where I'm at right now. But that's not to say that next week or tomorrow I decide to have a cup of coffee. And if I do, I'm okay with that. But it's just having that self-awareness and the awareness of the things that we're taking in. What is that doing to your life? What is that doing to your body? And is it serving you?
Yeah, that's like so powerful. I think that it's so easy to look at somebody that maybe gave up coffee or gave up alcohol or gave up, you know, ice cream or certain other kind of food or whatever, and think that like, you know, oh my gosh, they really sacrificed. They're just so strong. But that's you're projecting maybe like you're not ready for that, or because your mindset isn't where, you know, it needs to be to experiment with that. Like really thinking about it as one big experiment, like you said, and just being, you know, a beginner and trying something different and thinking about it as I'm just playing around with this. I'm going to see what happens. You take that pressure off yourself to, you know, give up something and never look back. You know, it's not necessarily about that. Like, I mean, I still eat candy. I still eat ice cream. I still eat pizza. I still have adult drinks. Like but there's a balance, and obviously you can slip, you know, where your habits if your mindfulness leads you with anything that you do, you're obviously, you know, your habits will start to shift a little bit, to start to change, which may negatively affect you, and it may not, you know. So really that mindfulness practice is just so strong. And it, you know, if when we say that and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, or duh, of course we're mindful. You know, everybody's level of that is going to be different for everything. And it can really take you to some powerful places. For example, one powerful tool that I get my clients to do is tracking their food intake. Now, I don't love tracking my food intake. I think it's a tool that leads to mindfulness, and I think it's good to do for like a short sample of time, just so you can kind of, have a window into what's actually going on. Because when I ask people how much water they drink or what they're eating and that kind of thing, they'll tell me one thing. But when I have them track it, and if they're really honest, usually it looks a little different. And that's not that they're wrong. It's just like we have, certain like biases to what we think goes on. And then when you take that sample, it's like, oh, well, I forgot that, like, as I'm cleaning up my kids' plates, I usually eat the rest of whatever's on their plate or whatever it is. There's always a little like hidden gem that usually comes up when you're tracking, and that's just like a mindfulness tool. Well, some people, if they, maybe they might be triggered by tracking, and may remind them of maybe they were someone who used to be very restrictive and obsessive about counting calories and tracking their food or whatever. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that they track. So it's very important for me to talk to people, one-on-one whenever possible. So if they have history of something that what I recommend just in general wouldn't fit for them, I need to know that stuff, And so again, this is why I don't love, jumping on Instagram and following some new account that's all about, I won't say what, but just, eating one certain way or whatever, and just being like, well, all these people have success doing that, I have to do it exactly this way or I'm a failure. It's like, it's just not the way it is. So, if anything, we hope this conversation just really inspires you to like look more about like, using that mindfulness practice in how you feel after you eat. What kind of like auditing your current habits? Like, are you drinking like 4 cups of coffee every day just out of habit, or because you're not paying attention, and it's just what you've been doing? Because all of that, it does have an effect on us overall. Maybe you're, you fall into the habit of always eating dessert or whatever before bed. It doesn't mean that you have to give it up completely, but maybe limit it, maybe drinking adult drinks only on the weekends or whatever. Maybe it's just a little change up. Like especially if you're frustrated with your energy level or your sleep or your weight, making little bitty adjustments like that and bringing that mindfulness into, okay, I'm going to choose to do this today, to do this tomorrow, and do that the next day. And then whatever happens after that, we'll see, just kind of like almost challenge yourself to just try something new, shake things up. You never know what it'll lead to,
And start small, right? It's not all or nothing, and you don't have to give yourself. The other thing is changing the language, right? So it's not about shoulding and I have to. So reframe those words, because the minute you start telling yourself you should, you're setting yourself up for failure. The minute you tell yourself that I have to, guess what? Your body's saying, I don't want to, because you're telling me I have to. So it's all about, seeing how you can shift on how you talk to yourself and how you talk about food and how you envision it. And then making those small adjustments, or, you don't have to just remove it altogether and forget about it. Just, you can swap, you can change, you can adapt, be flexible when you're assessing. And with the whole tracking and the whole journaling, I'm someone who used to get very triggered about tracking because I was very restrictive earlier in my life. And so with time, the way I've trained my brain to think and my body to see that piece is, let's journal about it. Let's tell a story of what my day was like today. And it doesn't have to flow in any way possible, but as I'm going through and taking account of my day, I insert the pieces of food in there. So then I have a whole story of my day, how I felt, what my mindset was like, and I have an entry of my food. And that way it's not glaring in the face, and it's not saying to me, look where you went wrong and look what you did wrong. Yeah. It's just me painting a picture of my day, telling a story, and it's all within. And then I can take that and audit, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a lot of the people who seem to have that all or nothing are usually very critical of themselves, you know, and wanting that, you know, if like they can't be perfect, there's no reason to do it. And I'm like, it's not true. You know, you can't really make progress unless you're just willing to go for it, even if it's not perfect. So again, with the better not perfect mindset and starting small and just, you know, and taking, you know, that audit of your day and the snapshots and stuff, and just, you know, try something new and make some tweaks and see what happens. And like you said, being flexible, just like you would be flexible on the mat, be flexible, you know, throughout your day. We want you to adapt and to be able to overcome without having to control every little thing. If you feel trapped by food, you know, it's just not a way to live. And also being like, and we'll get into this later, a little later, but I know it's so tied with body image and all of that, you know, as a whole, and being able to kind of detach from, you know, self-worth and all that stuff for what your body looks like, or feel like, you know, you're a failure if you worked out and then you go eat a burger. It's like, it's not a reflection of you as a person. And anyway, we won't get into all that because we need to wrap up, but
yeah.
I could talk forever about all that too. But that kind of is leading into like the whole, you know, being flexible in different ways. When you find that when you stop obsessing, I'm not saying like, you know, being passionate and learning and all that stuff is not good. It's when you get to the point where you're so overconsumed by one facet of life. Like if, you know, you're eating and you're already thinking about, you know, how much time do I need to allow, you know, till my next meal, and what are the macros, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you have all these feelings about yourself based on what you ate and all of that. That's just something that you really don't want to get caught up in. I mean, you're not at the end of your life. You're not going to be like, man, I really wish I would have limited my carbs more. You know, you're just not. Now, obviously, you want to be healthy. I'm just saying, there's a fine balance there that I think people can get caught up in the extreme, and then they kind of miss out on life because they're so focused on food, or even, and then, you know, further like looking a certain way and all that kind of stuff. But we won't get into any more of that. So thank you guys for tuning in. We hope this was helpful. More kind of on like the nutrition and how it kind of, you know, weaves throughout your whole day and your mindfulness around your nutrition habits. You know, we have to eat every day, unless you're fasting, which is fine. Like fasting every once in a while is good too. But there's just so many, I know, and it's so multifaceted. You have to eat more than once a day for the most part. It's different from like getting that workout in or whatever. Like eating and drinking water is something you have to do kind of, you know, most of your day. So we'll touch on water a little bit more next week, and like, you know, kind of get into more of the movement aspect of the pillars and everything. And then, I don't know, we'll have some more exciting announcements about what's to come in May. And if you're someone who needs some mindfulness practice in your life and really balancing your energy and balancing your habits, we've got some fun stuff coming up. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, never hesitate to leave us a comment. Share with your friends, message us, you know, privately if you want to. We're really, really, really passionate about helping, you know, people just feel better from the inside out, and just be healthy and happy. So thanks again for watching. And Marissa, I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too.
I'll send some of the sunshine to you, even though it was like 32 degrees.
Yes, please.
But we need we're in the teasing phase where it's like springtime, you know, in Alabama. It's like 30 degrees when you wake up, but it's like 65 in the afternoon, and then some days are a little warmer, but it hasn't, like, the warmth won't be here to stay until like another month, I think. So
yeah, same with us.
Yeah. So is y'all summer like May, or, you know, June, July?
June, July, August, and then September it starts to go into fall. So yes, I will take all the sunshine because I am a sunshine worshiper. Yes. And on that note, thank you for today. Thank you for tuning in. Stay well and be well. Take care of yourselves.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a great rest of your day.